Hello, all you cosmic travelers and wanderers. This is Darlene Vandergrift and K. Melissa Waterman, inviting you to join us today in our episode of Expansion from Within, Exploring Multidimensionality.
Hi, everyone. We're back for our second to last episode of this season. It's episode number 59. We're going to talk today about the last little bits about death. I think we really covered quite a lot in our last two episodes, but we have a few more, just a little bit more we thought we'd cover today.
Sounds good.
All right. So, let's talk about, aren't we all dying? I mean, it's in one form or another. We're all going, right?
We're all going. It's a belief system that we have, and so therefore we tend to follow it for many, many years. So yeah, the physical body ages, despite what we tried to do to help it to not age. It still in some way ages. But I think there's more to it with other parts of ourselves that die. Like when you think back of it, what the choices you made at 20 and 30, that part of you, I think people look back on that and go, I don't even know who that was. Or, oh my God, I can't believe I made that choice, like to do it now, I would never even think of it. So it's those parts of ourselves, the aspects of ourselves in our learning and our lessons that I think have also died or integrated.
Yeah. I mean, certainly, I feel like I've lived about 6 lives in this lifetime. I'm 65. Yeah, one a decade, one little
Mm-hmm.
story or part of me per decade, and that some parts of me have gone or are no longer available to me, but some aren't, right? Some of my younger parts, some of them are still around. Some of the parts that need more healing from the wounds are still around, but it's true. I guess it's kind of interesting to think, like, are they part of my soul? Are those parts the personality parts? They're not really part of my soul.
Well,
And
the
yet,
part of your soul's experience, right?
right, they're part of my soul's experience. That's better said. I like that. Yeah. And then when I die in this physical form, my soul goes on, of course. We've talked about that a number of times now in this podcast. And some of those personality traits might go with, and some might not.
Yeah. And it depends on what your choice is and when, if you choose to ever incarnate or where you choose to incarnate. Um, but yeah, those parts feel like they need to be honored, like in our process of whatever age we are, looking back and being mindful of, who you were and the choices that you made and honoring that you did the best that you could at the age that you were. Because
Mhm.
20, 30 years later, you're going to look back and say, oh my God, like how did I even do that? But honoring who you were and not holding any guilt or shame or remorse about your choices, because it'll keep you from evolving in some way, because you're taking that energy and putting it back into another time, another timeline that can't affect you now unless you heal it, right?
Right. I think we talked about, the idea of detaching from ourselves and our loved ones in the last two episodes somewhere. That that makes sense, right? Like in a way, forgiving ourselves is detaching from our past,
Yes.
um, not holding on to the regrets, but coming to some kind of rest. I mean, there are some things I can't imagine no regret about. Like I've made a couple of errors that have impacted other people, but I'm certainly more at peace with them than I've ever been. And I get that they aided to someone else's journey. And I don't mean that to make it okay. I mean it like it really is now part of what another person has to um, work through, for good or bad, for right or wrong. It's just not the thing I can work through. I can't make it better for this other person, right?
That's right. And because you
Um,
can't, because many of us can't make it better for the other person after it's happened. Um, you need to just breathe and let it go and realize that you did what you needed to do at the moment, or you would have done something different.
That's true. Well, and when I look at this question, aren't we all dying in one form or another? And it's like, well, we are all dying in this form,
Yes.
period.
Yeah.
Not another, not necessarily another, but this one.
No.
This is the form. This is the actual form that's gonna not exist forever.
Right. This is
I
the
think
only
people,
form that we know right now.
yeah, this is the only form we have right now. I mean, so that we are aware of. I don't know. Do you have any other forms that you're aware of that are in form?
Well, the integration process that I went through for a few months earlier this year, they took me through really what happened in the dying process of 7 parts of me, 7 other
Mhm.
lifetimes of me in different forms, in different genders. Um, and I can't, the word is not interesting. It was somewhat empowering, feeling powerless, and watching the death process of the choices that I made in other lifetimes that brought me to not being in that physical form because I never had asked about it before. I got bits and pieces. Oh, you did this in this lifetime and that, and it's all part of the books in who I've come to know myself to be. But I never really, the integration process for the evolves was to show me how these lives ended so that I could look at who I am in this life
Uh-huh.
in a different way. And it did. It help me to accept what I do.
Hmm. Did it give you any greater appreciation of yourself?
Yeah, being more aware and defined with what I do. Not as much as what who I am. I think that's after what I do for me because I'm a doer. But it has shifted in that, like it feels like I put it to rest. Like all those lives, I put them to rest. I understand them now. I know from their time of when I was first aware of them and how old they were and how they passed. And it gave me one more insight, but it put it to rest so that I could be part of all that in my own life,
Right.
you know?
It's pretty awesome. I'm glad that you got to have that integration process. I feel like we didn't talk about it enough at the time.
Well, we can always do another one.
That sounds
Not
good.
this year.
Well, I also wonder, would you, and I want to ask the same question to myself, but would you do it again or not at all?
This life, I've always, I mean, there's some horrific things that happened in this life in childhood and moving forward, but I always felt blessed.
Mm.
So yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat to have my kids that I have. I would do it in
Yeah.
a heartbeat because of the friends and the richness of learning lessons was really, I don't
Yeah.
care how horrific they were. It was like, oh my God, I survived that.
Right.
Yay. And look what changed, and I'm never going to do that again. And I feel stronger because of it. It's all of that. Yeah, I would. I don't know if I
Yeah.
would change really anything.
Well, I think the cool thing is we don't actually have to do it again.
Yes, that's true.
Like, so it might not be, it might not be a fair question because, you know, it all depends on the view of what my life was like, whether I would choose to do it again, right? If I come from the view of being victimized throughout my life, then why would I do that again? But I
Right,
can see that I wasn't victimized, that I was in choice, quite a bit of it. And I also have unbelievable friends and unbelievable love in my life and spectacular abundance on many, many levels. And so, yeah, that feels like a nice ride to have again. And then knowing that even if I can't remember, which still makes me annoyed, I feel annoyed that we can't come in remembering. I get there's a point, but I don't like it. I would like to remember some of it so I don't have to do it over so much, but that I can just take off from where I am now.
Mhm.
And even with not remembering, I think I would bring enough of my open heart to the next life so that it could be even more full, so that it could be even more interesting. Um,
Yeah, and I know that, we're trying to get away from the linear, but I think that there's something that's accumulative in a positive way. That if you spent 500 lifetimes in opening your heart, I don't believe that the next incarnation you would choose to have less than that,
right,
right? You're going to want to keep what you want to keep. You're going to want to keep your positiveness. You're going to want to keep your loving heart. You're going to want to keep your something. Doesn't mean that everything has to be that on that trajectory, but it does feel like those important things of being human that we would choose to bring them in rather than to, oh, let's go and figure out how to starve to death, and I've done that 500 times before. And, but, I think I'll try that again. I don't think that that's, at least for me, it doesn't feel that I would want to do that. Like when I'm done something, I'm done.
yeah. Well, and I'm recently working a lot with the idea of free will and the choice that we make to say yes to something different, right? But that
Yes.
sometimes there's parts of us that keep saying no, and that those are the parts that win. Those are the parts, those unknown parts are pretty darn powerful. And so in another life, like if I don't work through those parts, if I can't get in touch with them and have some kind of compassion toward them, they're going to show up in another life saying no. And then that, I think that's how that repetitive cycle can occur where, oh, you were a nun for 200 lives. Oh, great. What fun that must have been, right? Like, for Pete's sake, one or two probably was enough. Like 200 might be a little less than fun. Um, and how do we have as much, we talk about this all the time. How do we have as much fun now? How do we stay in as much joy now so that we bring all that yummy joy into the next incarnation? I
I
think
think
that's,
that's, I think
yeah,
that's the timeline work, at least for me. If I understand and integrate and accept and allow and heal and forgive and whatever I need to do with the parts of myself, even in this lifetime, right?
right,
If I address all that, the inner child work, if I do all that, it brings a sense of security, it brings a sense of, stability, and it brings a sense of somewhat of accomplishment and joy.
right,
So I don't want to carry all of that. If I choose to come back in another lifetime here on Earth, which if Earth looks the same, not is the same, but looks the same in nature and has all the beauty and it has, people in it and all of that. Yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to come back into that in a very new, fresh way, even.
right, right. Well, I think it's, the other half of the question is, would you do it again or not at all? And many times I have said out loud, like, Earth is really hard, and no, I'm not doing it again. I'm not, if I get a choice in front of me at the pearly gates or wherever the heck, I'm not doing it. I'm not coming back here. I'm not coming back to this because this feels um too hard. And yet that's just a vantage point. That's not,
Yeah.
it's just a momentary vantage point. And so I think I will come back again, like there is more to learn. And I do want that open-hearted, loving, yummy, um, all what, like you said, like if this earth is not having volcanoes every 15 seconds and having earthquakes every 50, like if she's not actively trying to kick us off more than she is now, then yeah, let's come back, right? There's so much. I think the other important piece I want to say is that there's a knowing that I have that I haven't had my whole life, that I have now. And that's that the power of what my love is for the planet, for people, for you, for is so powerful. And I have some knowing. I mean, I'm making funny hand gestures, but it's deep in my bones that that does something, that is something. It's not nothing. It's not just love between you and me, or love
Hmm.
between me and a tree, or it's powerful. And that feels worth coming back for. Not
Yeah,
because I get the love, but I can do some work with it.
yeah,
Something can change because of it. That
yes,
feels really cool to me.
yeah. And that's the truth of it. And you talk about, a vantage point or whatever, but being a mom, and you're being a mom. You
Yep.
have that first baby, you deliver it, and you go, I'm never going to do this again. And a year or two later, it's like, oh, but they're so cute, it's a baby. And, so it's that, we forget. And I think
Yeah.
that's the other thing of even coming into incarnating here. We do forget. We do
Right.
forget so that we can be fresh and let's see what we do this time,
That's
right?
right. That's right. It's so true. So, when it's time, who do you think you'll have waiting for you when you cross over?
I hope my mother, she was a significant forever in my life from the time she hid me as a hid me as an in utero so that they didn't take me. So I would say her, and I would work with her again, and I would enjoy that again, and I feel like I've come to a different place with her. So I would say my mom. Um, I
So
think
I
I
want to I want to be really clear. I'm asking who would greet you when you get over, not who you would do your next life with.
Oh, my mom. I would like to have her greet me when I came over. I don't need to be really greeted. I would like to, it's not a party for me. It just feels like if I get over there, if there's one person there, or it's not a big deal for me. Like, just let me get on with where I'm going next, like, or what's here, or let me look under the rocks and in the clouds and wherever wherever it is, because it's all new. What I believe will probably happen is and I don't, again, this is coming from a different my consciousness in this body, is that I think there would be sadness. I don't believe that to be true. I think there would be sadness when I look back and think of, oh, I'm not going to see my kids anymore, and all of that yummy stuff that happens here on the planet. So I think there would be, but I might be totally wrong about that.
Yeah. Well, I think there's something that, like, I'm making hand motions, how funny, but I think that up until you pass, you're still here. And so, of
Yes,
course, you're going to be missing whoever you're not going to see. But the moment you pass, the world becomes, I mean, I don't think it's the world anymore. The space you're in becomes so grand, so big, so expansive that you haven't lost them. You still have the
it'll be a
ability to,
very, yeah,
right?
it'll be
Like,
a
I
very
think,
different perception, right?
yeah, they've lost your physical body and the ability to be with you physically. And, maybe they'll be able to connect to you in some spiritual way, but you will be able to connect with them. You will be able to, if that's the choice you make, in that space.
Right.
So it's, I'm making like I'm moving across a timeline, but I do think that once we get to that place where we go, oh, okay, I'm out,
Yeah.
the whole thing opens like a big giant egg. Like we're just, it's a huge space.
Yeah.
And
And,
who
and
knows what.
I experienced that it was an alarming, but it was like an awareness that, my friends passed, two of them this summer. And it was this before they passed, it was this, oh, there's you could feel the connection, right? And when they passed, it felt like it was not a relief, but just like, oh, okay, it's different. It's
Right.
just different.
It's just different.
Yeah. And it was a surprise to me because I thought that, oh, there's going to be a lot of grief about this. There's going to be a lot of, processing about this. And it really wasn't. It's just like, oh, okay, they're okay and I'm okay. And it's just different. And we'll see each other somewhere.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm with you completely on that. I think I will look very much forward to seeing my sister again. I have a sister that died when she was 23. That would have put me at about 32, I think, or 33. And so it just would be, I hope that she'll be, I have the sense that she's cheering me on all the time and is quite with me. And it would just be good to, see her in whatever form she's in,
Yeah.
even if it's see-through. If she's rather transparent and sparkling, I'll take it.
Well, you might be too.
Yeah, yeah, I hope to be transparent and sparkly. That sounds great to me. Is there anything you would want on your epitaph, in your epitaph?
I'm not, keep it simple. You know,
I've got all kinds of
she
jokes
was a
coming to
good
my mind.
person and she was a good person and she enjoyed people, you know.
Yeah. I'm gonna, if I'm still around, it's gonna say something like, she was a magnificent human and really liked talking to blue people.
Well, make sure you write that on wherever you need to write it so that it does get on there.
Don't worry, I'll be all right if it doesn't, but something like that. Like I agree. I don't have anything spectacular. It feels more in the realm of what someone else might need to have written about me than what I need to have written about me. I don't have any particular words that I feel attached to or like she was a good person even. It's like, well, I was a regular person. You could write that.
Yeah,
I'm a
regular.
regular person,
You know,
regular flaw, not an
epitaph,
axe murderer, not an axe murderer. That would work.
no.
Just
Um,
regular.
isn't an epitaph written on your tombstone?
I thought we should probably look it up before we did this because I
Because I
want to
don't want a
know.
tombstone. I'm like, oh God, no. I don't need a tombstone.
I think I think an epitaph, the idea of an epitaph is what people will say about you or what
Okay.
what
Okay.
you are remembered by. But of
Yeah.
course, I don't want a tombstone either. I would
No.
prefer a
Yeah. Give me a
burial.
tree.
Yeah,
Give me a tree. Carve my initials in somewhere. But
yeah, it's pretty funny. So, well, I think that this is all our questions, and we're just about out of time. Is there
okay.
any last thing you want to say about the end of this death process
No, it's
that we've
been
been?
quite we started this in January with the Cosmic Travelers with going through what was it, wisdom, and it was 3 months of setting the tone, and then we did death processing for I think 3 or 4 months, and
Yeah.
now we're moving into the rebirthing piece with people. But um, it feels like an interesting time to do all of it this year
Mhm.
because 2025 feels really different to me,
Mhm.
spiritually, consciously. I feel different. I feel like I'm moving into a different phase in my life. I feel like people are more ready to move into a different phase in their life, no matter what their age is, you know? It's like we are gradually moving into this new position of where Earth is cosmically, and it's not going to happen quickly. It happens as so we can adapt and we can grow and we can evolve. But it feels like 2025 as we move into that for the next, 4 or 5 years, 3 to 5 years, there's significant shifts that we're going to be invited into to see where we land. So I'm
Awesome.
looking forward to that because it does feel like we've come through a darker time in our life. And for some people, it's still very dark,
Yeah, it's
right now.
true.
And they need help
Mhm.
to navigate and to understand. And the work that you do and work that, a lot of people do in all different genres, I think that's very helpful, specific, and needed.
Mhm. Well, are you ready for the announcements?
Yes, ma'am.
So, is this episode connected to any particular cosmic traveler meeting?
I don't think so.
It might be the finish of our July, because July was what all the others are connected to. So, let's just say that this is connected to the teachings presented in the July Live Cosmic Travelers event. The materials given during the meditation at that event will, assist you in exploring this topic. And you can order a recording of this event at soulunion.com. You can contact Darlene at soulunion.com. You can contact me, K. Melissa Waterman, at livingwellbeing.net. The Cosmic Traveler Sessions is a live event on the third Sunday of each month. At this event, all the people that come participate in a guided interactive meditation directly with the evolves. You can contact Darlene at soulunion.com for payment instructions and for the link to attend. Cosmic Travelers has a Facebook page, and you can search for it on Facebook under groups. You can submit your questions to soulunion.com. And I think that's about it.
Yes. So just remember, before you leave this podcast, you know more than you know.